Yeah.
Battery 40%. Battery 40%. iPhone disconnected. Ready to connect.
בואי, עד עשה קחי גם את זה.
Okay, so I think we're supposed to start talking. Thank you for coming to listen to me sing. Anyway, whoever doesn't know, my name is Edyl Reznik. That's just my pivot. So I guess I'm introducing myself. My name is Edyl Reznik. Whoever didn't know, been here a long time. Glad to be here speaking to you. I don't know if you'll be glad to know me after this class. I'm not so sure, but let's go. Okay. The name of my class is Healing Our Hearts. And I think that a lot of us come to Yom Kippur not understanding ourselves, where our hearts are, and where our hearts could be, and how we could get them there. And so this is a small effort that we maybe put together to move our hearts into a healthy and happy even place to come and stand before HaKadosh Baruch Hu. There's a Yiddish song, and this really is not, I really wasn't planning on singing this because we were in such a state. There's a Yiddish song about a kala, that she comes and she comes to the chuppah and they're getting all ready, and there's a batchin, and the batchin sings, he says, don't cry. You know, this is like, you know, you're standing before, you know, you're getting yourself ready for the asana and all this stuff. It's not the time to cry. And then when she gets to the chuppah, he says to her, Kalashi, Kalashi, cry. Cry because your tears are full of Jewish chaim, full of, how would you describe chaim? Grace. And a person is not of stone and not of iron, so Kalashi, Kalashi, cry. I should sing it? Yeah, I told you that. I don't know how much time they're going to give me after that performance. better performance than the talk. Right. Okay, so we'll say it. Okay. Kaleshi, Kaleshi, Kaleshi. Mishtrein, Mishtrein, Mishtrein. Bist doch wie Toy sind der Sonnenschein. Und Eder, die Weste der Gruppe gehen, gehen. Müsst die Farben Ebersten stehen. Und ist Kaleshi, Kaleshi, weh, weil deine Tränen sind und ein Mensch ist doch nicht von Eisen und nicht von Stein. Ist Kaleshi, 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 weh. So we're really compared to Hashem's Kala and to his daughter and to his this. And when we come to Yom Kippur, we're really supposed to be there with our full heart. And coming with our full heart is not always so easy. We have a lot of different things in our heart. So, but here's our heart, a Jewish heart. Okay? A Jewish heart is full of compassion, and it's full of simcha, and it's full of yearning, and it's full of nachis, and it's full of awe, and it's full of admiration, and it's happily surprised, and it's angry, and it's horrified, and it's disgusted. Okay? So we have a very big range, and this is not even the beginning of our range, a very small range that we just said, of all of the different emotions that we could have any day, any time, depending on our thoughts. So many people feel that, well, I had this feeling, I had that feeling, I have this feeling, I have that feeling. But our thoughts truly affect our feelings. And it's a higher level to have our thoughts affecting our feelings. So there's times in the Torah that we could see that there's anger that's used for a specific purpose. Moshe Rabbeinu came down with the 2 tablets. And what did he see? He saw the Jewish people doing probably the worst possible thing that the Israelites could have been doing at the time, which was to create a golden calf and to be serving a different god, and all of the horrifying things that Avodah Zarah could imply, which thank God we know very little about today because we are not exposed to Avodah Zarah really today. But the things that were going on in times of Avodah Zarah was really very big, and the Jews were very exposed to that in Egypt. And so here they finally were Macabbi the Torah. Hashem loves them. You're his daughter, you're his wife, you're his this, everything, your bride. And so when Moshe Rabbeinu came down and he broke the 2 tablets, he was angry. But this was anger because of a reason. It was anger because the Jews, the Israelites, needed at that time a full stop, full-blown finishing line for this outrageous behavior that they were doing. Still, what did he break? He broke some stones. So what's interesting is that the second story about Moshe Rabbeinu also has to do with stones. So never did we see Moshe Rabbeinu hit somebody. Never did we see him actually put out his physical aggression on a human being. But the second story about Moshe Rabbeinu is very famous. It's when he came to the rock. And let's go there for a second. It's in Parshas Chukas, in the Chumash Bamidbar. And Moshe is told by Hashem that he should speak to the rock. And the Jews, the Israelites, I'm sorry, were at that time extremely thirsty. They were thirsty, they were complaining against everything. Why didn't you leave us in Egypt? Why did you take us all the way out here? What are we doing in the desert? We're thirsty. And this time, Moshe did something else. He said, listen, you rebels. Must we bring you water out of this rock? And then he hit the rock, not once, but he hit it twice. And we all know the end of the story, that absolutely immediately right there in the Chumash, right then and there, Hashem said it, you just forfeited your opportunity to take the Jews into Eretz HaKodesh. The Rambam says in Shmona Prakim that emotions are not just feelings that happen to us. There's a potential to overcoming destructive emotions, whether it is one's nature, which he acknowledges there, that it could be one's nature to be less patient, it could be one's nature to be less compassionate, or it's their nurture. Either or. The negative traits of anger and pride are not really allowed even an eighth of an eighth. However, all of our other emotions have purpose. There's a reason, a way to be more compassionate. Sometimes you have to be less compassionate. Sometimes we're more sad. Sometimes you need to be less sad. Sometimes, we can be, more of a simcha. Sometimes we need to be less of a simcha. Sometimes it's a time of yearning. Right now, it's not a time of yearning. We need to do something else. All of these emotions are part of having a healthy heart. But anger and pride, according to the Rambam, is something that needs to be overcome, not balanced. So, we have probably a limited vocabulary in our day-to-day lives of what we feel. I'm happy, I'm sad, I'm angry, I'm upset, Sad, upset, angry is a lot of heavy words there. It's not, most of the words are joy and simcha and, I feel like I'm reveling in something, or I'm enthusiastic about something. So a lot of times we tend to take our holy Jewish heart and make it very heavy, where we feel our negative emotions much harder than we do our positive emotions. So, Rabbi Dr. Avram Twersky speaks about anger, and he splits it into three elements. And a lot of Mefarshim feel that anger is the basis for most inappropriate behavior that happens in the world happens somewhere from the source of anger. And so Rabbi Twersky says that anger can be cut into three levels. One is the immediate instinctual response to a threat or to an injustice or to a fearsome experience. And anger is the proper response because it creates the fight or flight response, and a person has to get away from the danger or move quickly to help somebody or whatever that is. And using anger appropriately at that time means using the energy that the anger brings up in the brain, which is actually what it does. We'll speak about that in a second. And what it does is it moves the person to do the right thing to do right then. That's the first level of anger. The second level of anger is rage. And that's when somebody has that anger committed to action about the anger itself. It's not the experience of the initial anger that's motivating them, propelling them to move. Rather, it's something that they're thinking about and it makes them angry and therefore they act. Whether it's because they were insulted or because they were humiliated or because indignation or because of over responses to some other trigger that might not be somebody else's trigger, but it's their trigger. So that type of rage is not the type of anger that's permissible. Okay? he feels that the original anger, that original initial is not what the Rambam is talking about. That initial response to an immediate situation where you feel angry, somebody pulls out a chair from under you. It's an example that I heard from Dilber Shaver. Somebody pulls out a chair from under you and you fall. The proper response is to be angry because you have to get up and find out why this person is threatening you. It's a normal response. But then being angry at that person now and screaming at them and telling them that they can't come to your house anymore, this is already the rage part. And then their third level of anger is resentment, where I don't want to speak to that person for the next 3 years. Okay, that person humiliated me to such an extent that I'm never going to see her again. Okay, she's out of my life. Okay, I'm giving it extreme, but many of us do these things easily throughout our weekly, monthly lives in various different forms. And it could be even somebody who's helping you, but they don't talk to you the way you like, or they say things that are embarrassing, or they, make you feel belittled, and they're actually helping you. But so rage and resentment can really take us to places where we can't see the trees for the forest? Is that what it is? Is that the forest for the trees? I knew it was one of those. Okay, so then there's some very famous doctors and therapists. I was going to say that I happen to be a trauma recovery and addiction recovery coach, and so I happen to have a lot of information about various things. But there was a very famous doctor, his name was Dr. Sarno. I happen to be one of his students originally. Anyway, so he felt that the tension that's retained in a person's body from anger is what causes chronic pain. Okay, and this was in the 1980s that he came up with this mind-body connection. And he, many people today are speaking about Dr. Sarno's work, but back then, when the New York Times did a spread on him, and I remember the spread, it was with many, many, many strange comments behind it, and there were many doctors who disagreed with him. Today, it's a it's a known thing that tension from anger goes into the nervous system, it affects the vagus nerve, I'll talk about that in a second, and makes that a person is not able to function in many different levels. Okay, so let's speak a little bit about what Chazal say about anger, because ultimately what we're seeing is that a lot of tension, a lot of pain, a lot of resentment and rage, whether it's at ourselves or at our family members or at our community members or our neighbors or the guy who sold us the wrong thing or the person who didn't pay us today or whatever it is, we have to know that these are not the elements of anger that even Dr. Tversky is speaking about. Meaning all of those elements, using those elements against our people, against fellow Jews, against fellow family members, is not for the Jewish heart. We don't have that type of heart. Okay, so in the Gemara it says that anger causes a chacham to lose his wisdom, and a person who is destined for greatness forfeits his greatness because of his anger. So whatever his potential would have been, because he's angry, he has forfeited the greatness that would have come to him. Okay? In Gemara Pesachim it says, the life of those who can't control their anger is not a life. Again, the life of those who can't control their anger is not a life. So now we're talking even more of a somatic experience where their entire life is affected by their anger. Okay? Reish Lakish, also in Pesachim, says, when a person becomes angry, if he is a sage, his wisdom departs from him, and if he is a prophet, his prophecy completely departs from him. Okay? So in Orchos Tzadikim, anger destroys personal relationships. Did we need to know that? Okay. Also in Orchos Tzadikim, bad-tempered people achieve nothing except for their bad temper. Meaning, a person thinks that bad temper or whatever it is going to move and shift and heal and bring clarity. But there it says, the only thing it achieves is rage. That's all you created. I created. Whoever. So anger actually causes the mind to lose control over the part of our mind, the part of our brain that can reflect, that can make rational decisions, that can judge consequences, and make proper movements in terms of action to take care of whatever problems in front of us. So how does that happen? That happens because the actual original anger causes that fight or flight response, and that creates cortisol, adrenaline, all kinds of hormones that actually take over your brain. So today, the medical studies prove the things that have been written in the Gemara, and that, and we understand that Moshe Rabbeinu had this rage. He had it for a second. He forfeited his wisdom. He forfeited his potential. Moshe Rabbeinu. And then there's Beis Hillel. Hillel, as again, Halacha was Hillel and Shammai were the ones who, were discussing halachas back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And Hillel had a tremendous amount of patience. People would come and try to make him answer ridiculous questions. They tried to, trip him up with difficult riddles so that he would answer them and sort of make fun of him and stuff like that. He had tremendous patience. There was such a person who came, and obviously they had made a bet, because at the end of the conversation with Hillel, and Hillel refused to give in to becoming angry at him, or even though he was egging him on. So the guy said, "Oh, gosh, I just lost 400 zuz on you." And Hillel said, "Oh, really? I'd be happy if you lose another 400, as long as Hillel doesn't get angry." That's properly placed anger. That was a sharp thing for him to say in the proper context, but he wasn't angry. And that's actually why the Gemara says we rule according to Beis Hillel and not Beis Shammai. Because Beis Hillel had patience and he didn't resort to anger. Even when he was egged on in very uncomfortable situations, he's busy taking a shower in the public bathhouse and people are coming to egg him on. Okay, so this is like really not appropriate. When we see somebody like that, it's like hands down. How can we ever be there? But we can. Okay. So I propose that we change our relationship with anger. We have a relationship with this very deadly, very destructive force that for many of us comes faster and simpler than joy, than appreciation, than gratitude, than nachas, than connection, than adoration, than loving. Somehow that instinct of anger comes up much sooner and much faster. So I would say that much of women's anger doesn't come from the outside. Much of women's anger comes from being hidden under layers of doubt and uncertainty about what our own potential is. And many, many women are not contacting their higher self and saying, I have a dream, I want to do that. I want to become this. I want to do this. I want to move into that place. I have a personal desire. I want to, embrace a bigger purpose. I want to, learn different material and teach, or I want to create jewelry and sell, or I want to change my community into a, beautiful garden. But fear of people saying things about you, or fear of what, whether you could get the funds together, or whether or not it's going to be worth your time and effort. So many women are not listening to their intuition of understanding that they have a koach. Instead, they're worried because other people are telling them they can't do it. You can't do it. You won't be able to. You won't have the money. You won't be successful. Other people do it better than you. I just want to just know that not unrecently, me and Alana Trachman run a parenting program, and we teach Tzfat for many years, and now in Yerushalayim. And somebody actually walked up to one of us and said, "Why don't you leave this project for the younger generation?" Excuse me. And the two of us had two different responses. We were like, we didn't know what to do with ourselves. It was really an experience in criticism and this dysfunction, in my opinion. But that's okay. That's just my opinion. But ultimately, we were already moving on in our goals and in our pre-established nitivim, how do you say? Pathways. We had already traveled these roads. We knew what we were doing. So that was not so hard to hear. But for somebody else to be starting out and wanting to do something amazing and wanting to really help others, or wanting to really, create, or wanting to, this one will do it better than you. This one has more money than you. This one, the city already does that. You'll never get money from the city for that, or all kinds of things. You just know that it's a part of our upsetness at other people that makes us stop what we do. They're making, it's upsetting to me that they're saying that, but they obviously decide for me who I am and where I am. So I'm going to accept that. And then we become enraged. And then we carry resentment. And then we walk around in our family throughout our day, pouring out our resentment and our anger and our rage in all different types of ways, and our friends, whatever it is. So a woman has to be able to seek her place in the world. She has to find herself and find her place. It could be in her family. It could be what she's doing is amazing in her family, and that is where her koach is, and that's where she wants to be. It could be in other places. It could be in music. It could be in her talents. It could be in many different ways. So I want to step out for a second and take two women, imaginary women. One, I grew up in the Bronx, right? One is a black woman from Harlem, and the other one's an old lady, Holocaust survivor in Borough Park. I don't know, anybody here know Borough Park? Oh, that's good. We've lived in the same apartment. Really? We both moved to Tzfat, and we lived one after the other in the same apartment in Borough Park. And we only met in Tzfat. Anyway, okay, there's the woman. She's got a big afro, big earrings. She's living in Harlem and whatever you want to imagine that her life would look like. And then we have this old lady with a bun, gray hair, and the way an older Holocaust survivor would be in this particular situation. A rock comes flying through the window. How would the woman in Harlem respond?
Throw it back.
She'd throw it back. That's good. What else? Come on, let's go.
Scream.
What? Scream. Yeah. What else?
Go outside and she chases over.
Okay, very good. What else? Call our brothers. Yeah, right? Okay, what else? Yeah. Do you think she'd call the police?
No.
She doesn't need their help. Anyway, what else could she be doing? I don't know. My experience with these ladies from Harlem is like, what are we hiding? Anybody else?
She'd be mad. She would show her anger.
She would show her anger. She'd stick her head out the window and say, which one of you did that? Yeah, right. Thank you. I was waiting for that answer. She kept her gun, which is not obvious. Okay, So now we have the older woman, the Holocaust survivor, Bubby, Yiddish speaking, Hungarian speaking, in Borough Park. The rock comes flying through her window. What's her response?
Call her son.
Call her son. Excellent. What? Hide under the bed. What? Hiding herself. What else? Baruch Hashem, nobody was hurt. Very good. She would call the police if she trusts the police. What else? What?
She's thinking never again. Is someone gonna throw a rock in my window? I think she'd be scared.
She'd be scared. I don't know. I mean, I think that's a great idea, but I don't know any single Holocaust survivor that I know growing up as a child of Holocaust survivor that's really gone. So I don't know, but it's a great idea. Could be a good idea. Maybe in Israel. Okay. We all agree that these two women would have incredibly different instinctual responses. Even our instinct is changeable. The way we respond to a given situation is going to make a difference as to how we think about ourselves in the situation, how we think about what the situation looks like, what it could possibly mean, what could be the purpose of this situation. So in some ways, we create our own reality. And we create it all the time, and we recreate ourselves all the time, and Hashem is recreating us all the time. And all the time that He's recreating us, He's recreating the option for us to recreate our personality and our response in a different way. So if there's a way that we're responding to personal situations, and now we're about to come and look at our personal situations, Erev Yom Kippur, we want to get brachas from Hakadosh Baruch Hu that everything is going to be good. We want to make sure that we're at least aware, that we have some sort of awareness that we actually can change. We actually can do something to move into a different direction by using our higher self, using perhaps the self that you would rather be. But it's just sometimes really too hard. But if we know what all of those baser feelings bring us to, what we lose out from all of these things that we heard from Chazal, of what those negative feelings can bring. So we have to think if it's worth it. Is it really worth it not to work a little bit harder to change the way we think about things? Is it worth it? Is it worth losing our level? Is it worth losing our wisdom? Is it worth losing that little bit of prophecy that maybe you have? That little bit of intuition that maybe could be so much deeper if you didn't have that riffraff of. So all of you know, this is a very famous one, right? That anger is equal. The Rambam equates anger with idolatry, with idol worship, because why? Because nothing can be thought of, not a Kodesh Baruch Hu, not anything else when a person is angry. So there it is. That is the response of that brain response of those hormones, adrenaline and cortisol, taking over one's brain, not being able to make decisions, not being able to choose at that moment, because we're allowing those negative feelings to take over our brain. So we're really not ourselves. So we want to become ourselves. Okay? We're going to speak for a second about what's called the vagus nerve. Now, there's a lot of hype about the vagus nerve, and there's a lot of stuff out there. I'm not talking about all that stuff. I'm talking about some science about the vagus nerve. Okay? So we'll talk about that. Right here, where you clap al chet. I'm going to talk about it. Just a second. I'm going to talk about it. Right here, where you clap al chet is on what they have discovered in medicine to be the most important nerve in our nervous system, called the vagus nerve. There's many nerves in our nervous system. There's two vagus nerves, a right and a left, and they affect. It comes down from the back of your neck. It goes through your chest, through your lungs, through your heart, to your digestive tract. Now just think about that, through your digestive tract. It affects mood, heart rate, blood pressure, immune response, plus many other things. The vagus nerve is the nerve that when you hug somebody, and you press somebody against you, it's pressing on that nerve. So it's interesting, there's many studies about hugs. Is that a hug from a trusted person brings down blood pressure, brings down heart rate, increases digestion, and makes better lung function. So that's the vagus nerve. That's me. When a person is hugged by a person they do not trust, but even a child who's hugged by a family member, an uncle or a cousin that they don't trust, okay? The exact opposite happens. Higher blood pressure, higher heart rate, stomach response. One of the things that children should know is if their stomach is responding to something that they don't feel comfortable, it could be in their stomach, and they should tell Papi and Mommy about that. So what they know today is that anger aggravates the vagus nerve. So when you're upset, when you're with indignation, when you're angry, when you're this, it could also just be when you're nervous. So you would have like stomach upset or butterflies. So this is that's that nerve that affects our internal organs. So it says in Mishlei, he who is slow to anger is better than a strong man. When a person is able to use their heart for not the negative emotions as much, but the positive emotions, so they actually affect their particular nerve. And when we go to Al-Chet, we come to Yom Kippur, and we're saying, Al-Chet, we're actually hitting the vagus nerve. Isn't that interesting? There's all different types of therapies today. There's stimulation. They put in a stimulation, not pacemaker, but nerve electrical stimulation. They have things from the outside now. They have like a telephone that can cause stimulation of the vagus nerve. There's all types of points and stuff like this that affect the vagus nerve. There's all types of therapies today, some for better or for worse. I don't really know that they all work, and I don't really know how many are medically, supported. But still, there's a lot to be said for understanding that our blood pressure, our heart rate, all of these things are interrelated to our emotions. So when we come to Yom Kippur, we want to come with a Jewish heart. So you should just know that anger is not a Jewish tradition. Doesn't matter that we have it, or that we've seen it, or that we experienced it, or that we had parents, or we had Holocaust survivors, or we had this, it doesn't matter where or what, every person in their own place will be more successful and with more grace, will be able to achieve what they want for this year with less anger. Because it doesn't help you make proper choices, and it doesn't allow us. Anyway, so I want to do a little pressure on our vagus nerve. And I want you to hear, you can close your eyes if you want. I'm not into closing my eyes, but if you want to close your eyes, you can. Anyway, so, and you say these words, just so that you hear what's happening in your heart when you say these emotions. Compassion. Come on, let's say it. Compassion. Pain. Joy. Yearning. Try to feel what you're feeling. It's different for each word. Nachas. Awe. Admiration. Fear. Happily surprised. Angry. Anxious. Shocked. Loving. Am I going too fast? It's a little fast. Adoration. Adoration. To adore. Bored. Relief. horrified, enraged, satisfied, excited, serene, grateful, happy. When we come to Yom Kippur, we want to come with whichever one of those parts of your Jewish heart you want to use. When you ask for brachas from HaKadosh Baruch Hu and you apologize, you should know that gratefulness and feeling sorry and all forgetfulness, all of these things are part and parcel of our process of being human beings. So it's okay if you have to forgive somebody. It's okay if you have to ask, I'm sorry. It's okay if you forgot that somebody hurt you. It's really okay. Hopefully, you'll be, by the end of this Yom Kippur, your more authentic self, where you can contact all of those other emotions and all of those wonderful options that you have without all that anger and resentment stepping in and taking over. Short enough?